What's up, guys? Today I'm going to talk about the Palestine and Israel conflict that has blown up in popularity due to the ongoing events happening there right now. I'm here to simply just give a rundown on it by going through the history that leads to current events so you guys can draw your own conclusions on the matter. I'll try not to be biased as I possibly can. Alright, let's get into it. 70 AD, after years of conflict, the Romans and soon-to-be Emperor Titus captured Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, starved, massacred, and enslaved the population. Jewish rebels persisted in the struggle at the siege of Masada, where according to Josephus they chose to kill themselves rather than surrender in 132. The Jews revolted again, and this led to a huge massacre of the Jewish people. After quelling the revolt and killing over 500,000 Jews and many running into surrounding areas, the Romans renamed the region Syrian Palestine. The name Palestine derived from the Philistines, and while some type of small communities of Jews continue to live in Palestine, most were scattered abroad and remained so for many centuries, leading to the Jewish diaspora. The 7th century is when the region was conquered by the Muslim Arabs, who built the Dome of the Rock Shrine and Al-Aqsa Mosque on the mount where Solomon's temple once stood. Muslim rule continued until 1099, when the first European militants of the First Crusade attacked and conquered Jerusalem with a heavy casualty count and establishing a Christian kingdom under Baldwin I. 88 years later, the Sultan of Egypt, Yusuf ibn Ayyub, most famously known as Saladin, re-established Muslim rule, instigating the Third Crusade, which ended with a truce in 1244. Jerusalem was destroyed by the Turks ruling Persia, and then, like almost everywhere in the world, the Mongols invaded, but they didn't have any intention of further assimilating Syria and Palestine, which they conquered. Soon the Mamluk Sultans of Egypt returned to rule Palestine until 1517, until when the Ottoman Turks took over, where Palestine enjoyed some prosperity until the 1600s. The governor at the time defended Palestine with British aid and repelling Napoleon's advancements. In the 19th century, a movement called Zionism was born in Europe that sought the creation of a Jewish state in Palestine. Hordes of Jewish immigrants began arriving, mostly from Europe, descendants of Jews from the diaspora generations after, and the resurrection of the ancient Hebrew language began during World War I. In 1915, Henry McHone, Britain's representative in Cairo, approached Arab leaders with a proposal. Britain will agree to Arab independence if they fight against the Ottomans. Then in 1917, Britain's Foreign Secretary wrote one-paragraph letter to Walter Rothschild, a leading figure in the British Jewish community. It read, "His Majesty's government views with favor of establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object." The letter became known as the Balfour Declaration and was in stark contrast to a declaration of the British and French armies in 1980, which assured the people of Syria, Palestine, and Mesopotamia with autonomy. So like every other time Britain goes into foreign lands and takes control, it leads to conflict. They promised land to the Arabs and then to Zionists, and dealt with the French to split up the lands between themselves. The British, after realizing the mess they created, they put the problem of Palestine to the UN, which divided Palestine, making Jerusalem an international zone. Still conflict and tensions between Arabs and Israelis, which led to the first Intifada, waves of protest by Palestinians, and rise in popularity of PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, which led to more tighter security and separation between Israelis and Palestinians. Another Intifada happened again. This rose in anger between Israel and other Arab nations, which led to the Six-Day War, where Israel won, taking the Gaza Strip and West Bank, which then led to the Yom Kippur War, where Israeli victory happened again, which then led to the Third Intifada. There were killings and mass murders on both sides, with an overwhelming more Palestinian deaths. To replace PLO, the group Hamas came and started attacks using missiles against Israel. This was where the conflict was for a few years. Hamas and Israeli clashing, with innocent Palestinians and some Israelis dying. 43 Palestinians were forced out of Sheikh Jarrah in 2002, and more families in 2008 and 2017. Since the beginning of 2020, Israeli courts have ordered the eviction of 13 Palestinian families in Sheikh Jarrah, despite living there for generations. On Saturday, an Israeli court delayed a scheduled hearing on a Palestinian appeal amid heightened tensions. The appeal could determine whether Palestinian families could be forcibly evicted from the neighborhood. The delay was considered a momentary victory. The ongoing solidarity protests with the families facing eviction in Sheikh Jarrah have led to last week's Israelis' intrusion into Al-Aqsa compound in the final week of Ramadan. For many, this is no coincidence, but rather direct provocation as retribution by Israeli authorities for the eviction protests. Since the attack on Al-Aqsa, Israel has launched deadly attacks on the Gaza Strip, which could lead to a full-scale war many world leaders are worried about. What are your thoughts on the matter, and can you think of plausible solutions? Are you pro-Israel or pro-Palestine? Or are you waiting for further information before supporting any side? No matter what you believe, let's be respectful toward one another. We shouldn't scoop as low to insult each other. That's it for now. I'll make a secondary video if anything new comes up.
لا يوجد في قلوبكم أي ذرة للرحمة. تقتلون الأطفال والنساء وكانوا يحملون صواريخ. بالطبع هكذا يا أخوان، كانوا الأطفال والنساء يحملون صواريخ. أنت كاذب، أنت وكل جيشك، أنتم كاذبون. أنتم ليس في قلبكم ذرة واحدة من الرحمة.